welcome to another edition of 90 Minutes in Africa, your news magazine program, which comes up every Saturday from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. on my media prime, The African Eye. I am Boh Elvis. In today's edition of the program, we begin by bringing you the latest developments across the continent. We begin in Somalia, where a state funeral has been organized for former President Mahdi Mohammed, who died of COVID-19 earlier this week. In Kenya, Nigerian police are camping at the site where at least 30 students were kidnapped in northeastern Kaduna. Those are the top stories on the continent. Time for us to get to our control room and take a look at what made news during the week. This is Africa Videos App. We'll be right back. That was the Africa Webs app, taking a look at some of the top stories that made news in the continent during the week. Time for me to welcome my guests in the studio for us to launch our debate for the week. Philemon MBALLE, good afternoon and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Elvis, and a special good afternoon to the millions of televiewers of my Media Prime. I will say it's a pleasure for me, and it's an honor once again for me to be here to talk about topical issues on the continent. And without much ado, we are here to give in our best, nothing short of our best, and we hope that what we say and do here is actually having an impact on the continent. So I want to say thank you once again for trusting me and for bringing me on board.
Thank you, Philemon. And of course, you're going to be reacting on the election of a new president at the
Confederation of African Football.
You're going to be reacting on that. MONIKA joining us all the way from Boya, America Professional. This is his second time of being part of the show. Carl, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Elvis. I'm really happy to be here for another time, and like the various news of this week made, we expect to discuss some pertinent issues that have shaped the continent, and I'm privileged to be here to give my own views. And also want to say thank you to all the viewers out there that are listening and their minds are being transformed by following this program. Thank you.
And of course, still in the studio, we're expecting YAGAKA, GABRIEL, who is going to come in any moment from now, as well as FORCHA, GLEN. They are on their way. And we have other guests via Skype. Let us move over to Kenya and join the president of the Global Pan-Africanism Network, Daniel MWOMBONU. Daniel MWOMBONU, welcome to 90 Minutes in Africa. Daniel MWOMBONU. Good afternoon, Daniel MWOMBONU, and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Elvis. I just want to assume that you're talking to me because actually the lines are actually not very good. I just do hope that your viewers are actually hearing what I'm going to say. Good afternoon to all the panelists. Good afternoon to all the Cameroonians, African, especially Pan-Africanists. It's always a pleasure to be part of the program.
Thank you, thank you. That was No Franklin. No Franklin joining us all the way from China. He is a regular guest in this program. Of course, we seem to be having issues with the lines, but our technicians are going to fix that out. Daniel MWOMBONU, I don't know if you're online right now. Can you hear us?
Thank you very much. I can hear you now.
Welcome to the program. Today, you are going to, of course, react on the latest developments across the continent during the week, but also, too, you are going to talk to us about the African History Month. What is it all about?
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be part of this important program once again, and I look forward to share my insights on African development. So, contribute towards the development of Africa through this program.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniel MWOMBONU. PHILEMON MBALLE, today, before we launch our topics of today, we are going to be taking a look at the situation in Senegal, how youths mobilized for the release of an opposition leader, and what we can learn from this event. Also, too, we'll be taking a look at the development in Côte d'Ivoire. Of course, they like to be officially called Côte d'Ivoire, even though in Anglo-Saxon countries, the country is referred to as the Ivory Coast, whereby the Minister of Defense, Ahmed Bakayoko, died in Germany at the age of 56. He died in Germany at the age of 56 after suffering from cancer. We are going to be taking a look at the situation in that country. That is, we are going to be having, they have 3 prime ministers so far within a period of 4 years, which is really preoccupying. And also, you know that there is a video that has been making a buzz online. I'm talking about Christian Cardinal Toumi, who is a top figure in the Catholic Church in Africa and also in the world. He has a traditional title. He has gotten a new traditional title as Sufai in the Salt Land. And as Africans, we are going to be taking a look at the impact of inculturation, because many people, some people have been criticizing Christian Sufai, Cardinal Christian Toumi, Cardinal Sufai Christian Toumi. Many people have been criticizing him, while others have been praising him, saying that this is the best way to take the gospel, and it's also a way of being proud of who you are. And these videos are coming in courtesy of the Facebook page of Be Proud of Who You Are. Welcome to the program once more. PHILEMON MBALLE, want to begin with you to react on the news of the week, that is the election of a new president at the Confederation of African Football from South Africa. So what should we expect? Apparently, it's as if he was supported highly by Infantino, and he won the race.
Well, supported by Infantino, I cannot place a finger on that, but I want to say that the person in question, Dr. Motsepe, he's a very, I should say, based on so many people's standards, he's a successful businessman. He's the owner of a prominent football club, Mamelodi Sundowns in South Africa, one of the clubs with the richest histories when it comes to South African football. He's been in the football circle for long. Especially on the continent, and I think it's time for the southern zone to, why not, to have to take control of CAF's highest office, that's the president. I think he deserved it. By the way, we had a series of coalition meetings where other candidates had to back out and throw their support behind Dr. Motsepe, owing to the fact that I'm very convinced they see him as the right man for the job. And out there in Rabat yesterday, it was a mere formality because he was basically running for the elections alone. So it was some sort of a coronation, or I wouldn't want to say election, but yeah, CAF now has its 8th president, the South African-born Dr. Motsepe.
And I'm not cutting you short, and Dr. Motsepe surely is coming in with an Anglo-Saxon way of doing things. And you know, the football being a mafia milieu, the Anglo-Saxon way of doing things, I mean, things are done in an ethical manner with a lot of transparency. Are you sure Dr. Motsepe will be able to face the mafia?
Yes, I think one of his introductory statements in the capacity of CAF's president, he said African football will take a different facelift. That is to say, African football would never be seen as before. I think when when someone comes up openly to say that, I know deep within his statement, he's trying to say corruption has no place, match fixing has no place, the mafia which you talk about has no place in African football, because African football has its image which must be protected, which has not been, well, which has been somehow tainted by the last regime, the previous regime under Ahmad. I mean, we had a couple of disturbing events where CAF's president Ahmad, the then CAF president Ahmad, was investigated by FIFA for corruption, for misuse of CAF fundings and things like that. So Motsepe being first of all one of the rare billionaires on the continent, multi-billionaire, I must say,
who promotes football clubs.
Football, I mean, he owns a football club in South Africa, and he has been in the milieu. He owns a very successful football club, let's be more precise with that, as opposed to previous CAF presidents who probably administratively, yeah, they could be good. Ahmad, he could be a good administrator, but then he didn't play football, he didn't own a football club, he doesn't know the grassroots problems of football to an extent, as compared to someone who runs a football club, who coughs out money to pay players, who knows how players' contracts have to be signed, who knows how football academies have to be run. I think it's a good deal there for Africa, and owing to the fact that a lot of other contenders, a lot of other presidential candidates at one point in time had to surrender their positions and say, this is the man we look up to. Dr. Motsepe is CAF's 8th president, and like you said, he's an Anglo-Saxon guy from South Africa. He's a successful businessman. He runs a football club. He has everything it takes to bring about the necessary change to clean the image of African football, especially at the level of CAF. He's a well-respected man, we must say that.
Thank you, Philemon. We're coming back to that subsequently to really dive into that, because football-related news is being neglected. But our program being Pan-African, we are not going to do that. MONIKA, you watched the Africa web zap, and at the same time too, you I don't want to limit you to football. I don't know if there was any news item that caught your attention when they were playing the Africa web zap, or you would like to comment about the election of a new president at CAF.
Now, I'm going to comment about the web zap. You know what happened in Nigeria, where we have the police of Kaduna State concentrating themselves after the abduction of students in the state of Kaduna, and you actually see that they are concentrating at that camp where the abduction took place, but it took place where they were before. So the abduction took place around a military camp. So we asked ourselves the question, how did these guys come and carry these students from this place when the police was supposed to be at the watch to prevent abduction of students? So that was one of the news that caught my attention. I was kind of in a dilemma. Is it that the armed force wasn't ready, or is it that it was a planned act? So it poses a big question.
Thank you, MONIKA. We now move over to China to meet Nu Franklin. Nu Franklin, want to get your comment on the some of the news items during the week. I don't know if there is any story that caught your attention which you would like to comment on.
Okay, thank you. What attention that Prime Minister Boh, of course, in the nation, Prime Minister is like a hot pot where so many people getting into the soup and not coming out alive. Some resign, like the case of Tom Soro and others. Some rejecting even the appointment, and we begin to ask, is actually wrong with this post. That's actually what I think, and we hope that we can talk more
Okay, no, Franklin, thank you so much. I would like you to maybe reduce your feedback a bit, because as you are talking, we are getting your voice, and also we are getting your feedback too. You know, surely maybe if you want to talk, maybe you can reduce your feedback a bit. While you do that, I will get back to you. While you do that, no, Franklin, let us move over to Nairobi, Kenya, and meet the president of the Global Pan-Africanism Network, Daniel MWOMBONU. Till now, we are unable to see him, but I hope we are going to see him now. Daniel, are you there? You've organized a series of events during this.
Thank you very much. The news that caught my attention is the allegations that Tanzanian president was admitted to Nairobi hospital, and that the news sources have reported that he was in critical condition, and he has been flown to India because he had some heart attack. According to me, these are just rumors, because Tanzanian government say that the president is busy. And, I was thinking probably he has joined the Tanzanian scientists so that they can speed the research for coronavirus solution, so that probably they're working on a cure for the pandemic.
Okay.
And it's important, I believe it's important for Africans to be able to tell their stories and support African leaders that are rejecting foreign interference, like Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the news that caught my attention.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I'll be getting back to you, but I want Franklin Nu, our analyst from China, to react to that. Franklin, about Magufuli, who is saying who has been, I mean, he was not seen for 2 weeks, and I mean the population came out to say, but we are not seeing our president for 2 weeks. But that does not happen in other African countries. Sometimes we spend 3 months, 4 months, or maybe 6 months without seeing a president, and no one bothers. So, frankly, what is your reaction to that? That is about the fact that in Tanzania, when people cannot see their president, maybe in 2 weeks, people start wondering, is the president alive? What is wrong with him? What is your reaction to that, compared to what happens in other African countries?
Mr. Elvis, I didn't actually hear you well. Actually, the lines are disturbing this way. The waves are not actually balanced.
Okay, I was talking about,
you know,
I was talking about the situation in Tanzania, whereby the president was not seen for 2 weeks, and the population became worried about the whereabouts of their president, compared to other African countries, where the president maybe sometimes is not seen for 3 months, 4 months, but people look at it to be normal. And we will be getting back to Nook Franklin before we come to the studio to launch our first panel discussion, which is going to be focused on how youths, the reaction of youths in Senegal. They had to push for the liberation of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, who is seen, who is the challenger of Macky Sall. Macky Sall, who is accused of planning to stand for an unconstitutional term in about 3 years. We move to Daniel MWOMBONU. Daniel MWOMBONU, you are the president of the Global Pan-Africanism Network, and you have been organizing, your network has been organizing a series of events this month on African History Month. Can you enlighten our audience on the essence of African History Month?
Hello.
We'll be getting back to Daniel We'll be getting back to Daniel. Philemon, our lines are not really favoring us this morning, but we launched the panel discussion here in the studio. Time for us to talk about Senegal, and we call on our viewers to be able to react. You can react to this program by either going to Facebook You go to the Facebook page of My Media Prime, you like, and then you share widely so that other people can watch. You can send your contributions on the issues being discussed via WhatsApp or via SMS. Time for us to open up discussion on Senegal. PHILEMON MBALLE, Ousmane Sonko, leader of Patriots for Senegal Work Ethics and Fraternity Party, he has been released after pressure from Senegalese youth who look up to him as the Messiah who will rescue Senegal. But considering too that Macky Sall was in the opposition and then he came back and he's been accused of trying to get into, to run for an unconstitutional term, I don't know what you have to say about how youths were able to stand up in Senegal and fought for the release of the opposition leader whom they consider as the Messiah.
Well, honestly, I think it's a formidable effort by the youths of Senegal. I remember I had a correspondent based in Dakar, and I couldn't get to him on a story because he said WhatsApp is no longer working in Senegal. Looks like the internet connectivity in Senegal was the bandwidth was intentionally dropped by the government or so it wasn't easy to get information from Senegal. But interestingly, when we see African youths rising up against, well, not really rising up against, rising up for their rights, because the youths in Senegal, one of, I mean, the core values they are requesting is the fact that the government should be able to revise its public policies, and they have three main things: training, employment, and support from the government. So these are three key aspects wherein Senegalese youths, just like many other youths on the continent, think that the government need to maybe double their efforts on, create more employment, provide more training to the youths, as well as financial support to youth programs, so that the youths can, fend for themselves and become creators of their tomorrow. So, like I said again, it's a very impressive move by the youths who championed the pressure that led to the release of the opposition party leader, who they consider their messiah, as you say. It's a very good move, and we've been following very closely these events from Dakar, Senegal, from other colleagues. Calm seems to be reigning gradually, and again, their voices have been heard. Just from the fact that the leader was released after such an enormous pressure from the youths, I think Macky Sall's government now know that the Senegalese youths, just like every other African youth on the country, on the continent, I must say, have a voice which must be heard, and it is high time that the youths of our countries, make the government know what they need to move forward, what they need to build their own future. Like I said, Senegalese youths, employment, training, and the support from the government. Why not? It's a great move for me, and I really appreciate the outcome, most especially of the pressure on the government.
Thank you, Philemon. Baby, our producer can put the theme of the day, so they'll be able to see the theme of the day. Carl, Monica, at the time when Ousmane, the theme of the day on is Senegal, Senegal. At the time when Ousmane Sonko of Senegal is mobilizing to take the lead as the voice of the people. He has been accused of raping a young lady in a massage parlor where he usually frequents. And you see, this is like a wet blanket for his political career. Your reaction to that?
Wow, Elvis, when I read the news about that, it reminded me of the Machiavellos and all the Mendacilloquents in the African government, in the sense that the ruling party knows that their term is arriving, and they are doing all means possible to destroy the opposition party. And I'm happy for the fact that African youths were able to rise up in Senegal to say no to this and go on the street and make their voice to be heard until the opposition leader was released. You know, Senegal has this history where the youth, they are very proactive when it comes to governance. In the year 2000, for political transition to come to Senegal, we had to see many youth in colleges, in high school, go out on the street. And these young people today are repeating history. And of course, they're giving a challenge to the rest of Africa that as young people, we shouldn't be wanderlust in the pleasure of youthfulness, but go ahead to tackle pertinent issues like governance and, you know, leadership in our country. So this is a great challenge to all African youth, especially in the Francophone country, because you see that in Anglo-Saxon country, there's quite proactiveness when it comes to youthful engagement in politics. But when it comes to the Francophonie, we have this sluggishness. But these guys are sending a message, and the rhetoric is actually very heard.
Just a little on that. Following the consistent pressure from the youth, now we have information that the Senegalese President Macky Sall has announced a new emergency employment program that will be funding close to 350 billion francs EFA to youth program. I think, but it wasn't necessary. The president could be proactive in his movement. He should not have waited for the youth to demonstrate, to go on the streets before he comes up now with a new plan towards restoring or towards empowering the youth with a 350 billion francs CFA project. So I think that, like I said, the youths have won, first of all, because the opposition leader was released. And then secondly, now we have information from Senegal that President Macky Sall is preparing a huge package in response for employment and socio-economic integration of the young people of Senegal. And from those images we see, they are not very healthy images. Elvis, we see this, I mean, very, very recurrently on the African continent. But luckily enough, there were no clashes. We did not
even the one person died.
Yeah, we did not record so many deaths as usually the case would be in other African countries. So I think so far so good. The message went across, and we're already seeing some very feasible response from the government.
Let's now move over to China and get Nook Franklin. Nook Franklin, you want to get your reaction to that, because as you know, Senegal used to be a model, used to be looked upon as the model of democracy in French Africa, but it's no longer the case. Your reaction to that, Nook Franklin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Elvis. Actually, like I said, the waves are not balanced, but if I'm given the floor right now, I want to assume that talking about the situation in Senegal, where recently Senegalese youth have hit the street demonstrating for the release of the opposition leader, Sonko Ousmane, who was arrested and detained under the charges. And in fact, what I want to say is that the arrest and detention of the main opposition leader is just an expression of what is going on in most French-speaking countries in Africa, where the opposition leaders are always looked upon as the enemies, political adversaries by the incumbents. And actually, the popular movements in Africa expresses a lot of malaise. You know, you and I know that in most French-speaking countries in Africa, the presidents in most cases always have this grip all on the other two axes of power, like the legislation and the judiciary, whereby they try to carry out some anti-constitutional acts to maintain themselves in power. And that has always caused a lot of risings. You and I know that the problem of unemployment is hitting in so many situations, in so many countries in Africa, and the case in Senegal is so alarming. You know, Senegal before now was like one of one of the peaceful country, okay, in French-speaking Africa.
Okay,
Like
Franklin. Hello,
before
Franklin.
Pakistan took over power,
Franklin.
Senegal was really at
We
peace.
seem to be
And
having issues with Franklin.
can you hear me?
We cannot really get you well. The sound is not really good. I think we're going to fix that. I think our technicians will have to drop and call back so that the sound can be better. Maybe we try MWOMBONU before we come back to the studio. If it continues that way, maybe we'll just analyze it from the studio. Mr. MWOMBONU in Kenya, I want you to come in now. At the level of East Africa, what have people been saying about the ongoing situation in Senegal? Daniel? Daniel MWOMBONU? Okay, Daniel MWOMBONU, I think we also lost him there. And Mr. No Franklin, I'm sure the technicians are going to drop and they will call back so that we can have better sound quality for our viewers. If you are just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching your favorite news magazine program, 90 Minutes in Africa, which comes up every Saturday on my media prime, The African Eye. 90 Minutes in Africa is a program during which we scan the African continent. We scan the African continent in all areas: politics, economy, health, sports, and what have you, with panelists coming in from Cameroon and other areas of the continent. FILEMON, MBALLE, we were talking about the situation in Senegal. We are not through with that. Sonko is expected to be candidate in 2024. Now that a rape case is hanging, a rape allegation is hanging on him, are you sure he will still have that credibility to stand for a position of leadership?
Well, these are not very unusual circumstances on the African continent, especially when the election years are drawing closer. Opposition candidates automatically, in most cases, become targets of public lynching, become targets of image defamation and things like that. But in this case, it's a little bit tricky because we still cannot pronounce. It's just an allegation. It's not been proven in court or anywhere that Usman was actually involved in a case like that, which of course is would defame his character one way or the other, would touch his integrity at the end of the day. But like we always say, the years prior to elections are very tricky, and the waters are very shallow. The floor very slippery, and we always see these things come up here and there, almost across Africa. And I mean, being the opposition, you should expect anything from that. If you go by, if you ask Bobby Wine, he's going to tell you how many times he's been to prison, to jail, and back. Out here in Cameroon, we also have opposition leaders who have frequently been, arrested or tagged with some socio-cultural or political scandals, which at the end of the day, we may only find out that these things are it's part of the political game. But like I said, it is still early for us to draw any conclusions. The elections will come up in, I think, 2024 in Senegal. Sonko is already preparing the stage, and most importantly, he has a huge proportion of the Senegalese youth behind him, and he clearly is a force to reckon with, and he clearly becomes an impediment to, I don't know, the current government and other candidates for the presidency. But I think that, like you said, the rape allegations, it's just, for me, it's still a headline. It doesn't make news yet. It's not been found, it's not been treated in a law court. He's not been found guilty, and so for me, it's not worth mentioning even for now. We just have to focus on his profile, which he's building as a future presidential candidate for Senegalese presidency, and of course his massive mobilization of the youths, which is gaining steam. I think he's gaining popularity. A lot of people are gaining interest in Sonko. We just have to wait and see how the political landscape in Senegal unfolds. in the coming years, and then in 2024 we'll see what the outcome is.
Monika, you are monitoring the situation in Senegal, and I'm sure too that you also monitored what happened in Uganda with Bobi Wine. What are some of the similarities you can see about the situation in Senegal when it is put side by side with what happened in Uganda with Bobi Wine, the struggles of the opposition?
Okay, Elvis, I'm seeing a generation of youthful Africans that are taking the effrontery to challenge the status quo. And I'm happy that the message is going from the east to the west, and that the classroom or our educational system is becoming current with the political activities of the country. Because if you could see students leaving their classroom to go and manifest, that means they're actually current what is going on, and it's a very big applaudable step that these young people are taking in these countries. And that also goes to explain the situation of the African opposition. It's really appalling to see that we are living in a century where opposition is still demonized, is still labeled with all kinds of scandals just for political gain. And we having autocrats that are trying to dictate the policies and ensure that they stay in power for long. As we all know that Senegal was much more peaceful when it comes to West African countries, and the current regime was an opposition party, but when they climb up and behave like this, it keeps us in a state of dismay that where are we going to as a continent? So we are looking forward to young people in each of these countries taking bolder steps, and of course their voices are being heard because the opposition leader was actually released. So this is a great step for us to move forward as a continent.
And it is not just an issue of French Africa or English-speaking Africa. If not, it wouldn't have happened in Uganda, even though it wouldn't have been happening in Uganda and the same thing happening in Senegal. I think it's more becoming of like an African issue. I don't know if we have a chance now to join No Franklin or Daniel MWOMBONU, because I would have really loved Daniel MWOMBONU to talk about what the Global Pan-Africanism Network is doing to promote African History Month, which is basically a very important event they have organized. Daniel MWOMBONU, any chance with you right now?
Hello?
Hello. No Franklin, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Come again.
Okay, I can get you five.
Question?
I can get you 5 on 5 now. The question I'm trying to ask is, what do we have to say? What do you have to say about what is happening in Senegal when you take a look at it vis-a-vis what happened in Uganda a few weeks back with Bobi Wine?
Come again, Mr. Elvis. I didn't get you well.
I'm trying to ask you what you have to say about the comparisons you have to make about the situation in Senegal and what happened a few weeks ago in Uganda, about young people showing more interest in politics.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Or we'll be getting back to you, No Franklin. Surely I would say that.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. I got a question. What do I have to say about the situation in Senegal? Yes, what I have to say is that actually this is the time for the youth of Africa to take their destiny into their hands. It is the case of Senegal today. Yesterday was the case of Mali. And this is showing that the youth are actually gaining strength to uphold their responsibility. You know, the population actually are the ones who determine the legitimacy of any political leader. I mean, you don't lead yourself, if you lead masses. And if the youth of Senegal have taken the situation of Sonko Usman to take the streets, it is just to show a manifestation of their grievances. I mean, 17 million, if not mistaken, of the majority of Senegalese, more than 55% of youth, among whom greater majority is unemployed. And as time goes on, situation are worsening in that country, and they are already, due to the recent anti-constitutional moves by Macky Sall, they are already suspect foul play by Macky Sall to get another third mandate coming 2024. You know, in
thank you so much.
Can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Must say that we are getting you with a lot of difficulty. Our technical, the lines between China and Douala do not really seem to be the best today, and we really want to apologize to our viewers for the poor sound quality we are having. I think we'll try Mr. Daniel MWOMBONU. If we cannot have him now, then we'll just focus in the studio, and we're going to invite them for subsequent editions. I wanted Daniel MWOMBONU to talk about the African History Month. Daniel, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, Daniel, because we are having difficulties really having you now, I want you to talk about the African History Month, which the Global Pan-Africanism Network has been organizing since the 1st of March. What is the message you're trying to pass across through the African History Month?
Very much. The History Month is an internationally the achievement of African history. And I founded the African History Month to make the world realize the importance of recognizing Africa's invaluable contribution to our civilization. Because without Africa, there is no history. Yet the history of Africa in erased, and also the history of Africa has been written eyes of the oppressors. And the African is working.
Oh my God, we're really having difficulties. Quite unfortunate that we can't get to you, Mr. Daniel MWOMBONU. We really apologize that we're unable to really have you today as we should. But it's not an issue. I think we're going to fix that out for our upcoming editions of the program. It was an issue with the lines, and we're going to fix that out. Ladies and gentlemen, time for us to also welcome one of our panelists who is joining us in the studio now. He had a difficulty. I know, YAGAKA Fokwa, Gabriel. Welcome to 90 Minutes in Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Boh Elvis.
You just coming in time because you were watching the program and you discovered that we had some difficulties and you decided to come and rescue the situation. That's so wise of you.
All right. I'm first of all very sorry for this.
You can remove your mask. The social distancing is respected, so feel free to remove your mask.
We are following the recommendations of the head of state, the recent recommendations.
Okay.
It's good to pay respect to that. So thank you, Mr. Boh, and I'm happy to be part of this platform this Saturday.
Okay. So you are coming at a time when we are talking about the situation in Senegal, whereby youth are showing a lot of interest in politics. And I think that's a topic which is so dear to your heart. You've, on several occasions in your post and in some events you attend, call on youths to be actively involved in politics because youth do not seem to even follow what is happening in the domain, but the one change.
Yes, well, the call to join the politics is, it should not be misunderstood with insurrection or misunderstood with the love, or indulging yourself in crisis, or reivindications carelessly. So my call for involvement in politics is that youth should be aware of their political situations and then decide on how they are going to, shape their future. So let us not sit down and allow people to enact policies for us, and then we start again crying. You cannot want something and its opposite at the same time. So with Senegal, I salute that initiative, but it should be well understood because I'm seeing it seems like it's just an issue of wanting to, you just love chaos or something that is not very organized. Radically. When I'm talking about involvement in politics, I'm talking about the kind of politics for me, that Luther King always thought about. So you take time to teach the masses about what you're going to do, and then let them understand the advantages, the merits and the demerits of what you're going to do. So I'm seeing a willingness to take political, to put their hands into their political situation, but I'm not seeing the education that they need, because there's also what we call political illiteracy. And that is going to be very terrible if you go into those things with that type of illiteracy. So I think that they need educators, somebody who first educate them on. You don't just, if we talk about changing something, you don't see it as, for example, going and destroying street lights. If you understand that destroying street light is already attacking yourself, then that's the kind of education we need. They need to be educated on what they need. Do they even know why they are going on the streets? Because if you take the preponderance of them, I'm telling you, 3/4 who does not even know why. They are just happy that they are opposing the system. And that is the problem. So they need first the political education.
Thank you, Yagaka, for Gabriel. Time for us to just move to our next topic. You are the one ending this topic on Senegal. Time for us to move to our next topic, which is a little bit sad. As you must have heard, and as you saw during the Africa Web Zap, this week, Africa lost a great man. Ivory Coast lost their Prime Minister, Ahmed Bakayoko, Prime Minister, former Minister of the Interior, former Minister of Defense, and he died after suffering from cancer in Germany. He was flown abroad for medical care, but unfortunately he could not survive the situation. And today the topic is really of interest to us because, as you know, from July 2018 to the 3rd of October 2019, Ivory Coast had a prime minister, and that was Amadou Gon Coulibaly, who passed away. And as you know, he was the presidential aspirant and a presidential candidate of the ruling party at that time. He passed away. And after that, Ahmed Bakayoko was interim prime minister, was appointed, and he was prime minister from July 2020, the 8th of July 2020 to the 10th of March 2021. That is just a few days back. And he also passed away. And as you know, Ahmed Bakayoko was seen as a potential challenger of Alassane Ouattara, who won the election again last year, which was normally supposed to be won by Amadou Gon Coulibaly, who passed away. And after Ahmed Bakayoko passed away, President Alassane Ouattara appointed another prime minister, and that is Patrick Ashi. Immediately after his appointment, a few hours after his appointment, we got rumors circulating online that he is not feeling fine, and he reacted by saying this is fake news, and the newspapers and the press should not be passing across this kind of information at this time because they are still mourning the death of Ahmed Bakayoko. So what is wrong with the Prime Minister's office in Côte d'Ivoire? I think it's a topic for discussion for Yagaka. You are coming in with fresh blood. First of all, I want you to react to the sad news. When we call the name Ahmed Bakayoko, what can you remember him from?
I remember, in fact, Bakayoko seems, when you talk about Bakayoko, you talk about Ouattara. So it brings me down a memory lane, though not nostalgic, very melancholic, because I do respect presidents like Laurent Gbagbo. And when I look at the way he was denigrated, you know, that's a problem with our African powers. I saw a poster which made me to laugh. I saw somebody putting Bakayoko on one side, put Ouattara on the other side, General Ouattara, and he was putting the prophecy of the former Ivory Coast president, who said that many of you people will regret what you are doing, and yes, the law of and it is those who are lucky will go to prison. He said those who are going to prison are those who will be lucky. And when you look at it, they are not even the only person. You see, just his name that is going. He's on exile now. So you see, when you see this kind of stuff, you ask yourself a lot of questions because
You're talking about Guillaume Soro?
Yes, Guillaume Soro. So we can't say for sure that there's something. I don't believe in superstition or something. But what I know is that two people who brought down in a very unacceptable manner a former head of state who fought against him, being part of the team, are no more today. So it is a lesson. I would want an Africa that will respect the state of presidency. I love that state. Mr. President wants always a president forever. So we should be careful, because when we are trying to bring down such people, we are not only impugning the integrity of the person, but we are equally assassinating the character of that position. That's the same thing I keep asking myself, why is the body of our first president not back? It's a normal question. Why should a pioneer president like this be wallowing in that kind of a mire somewhere? There's no respect to that state. It's a call for concern. It's even a cause for alarm. So these are things that should begin to draw our attention, not only in Ivory Coast. This should also come back to us ourselves to begin to avoid denigrating the presidential state. Once a president, always a president.
Monika, I'm sure you read with me the information I shared on 90 Minutes in Africa group about an article written by the publisher of Jeune Afrique, which is of course a very, very popular news magazine in the continent, whereby he was explaining the last days of Ahmed Bakayoko, saying Ahmed Bakayoko was weak, he was feeling weak. At one point he was sick, he went to the hospital, he was flown abroad, but they couldn't see what was happening. He came back. They did all kinds of tests. They couldn't see what was happening with him. He came back to the country, and he went back, and after the series of tests, they discovered he had cancer of the liver, which was already at a terminal stage. And sometimes, and coming to with suspicions of, some suspicions too, of course, allegations, the fact that he was probably poisoned, been, evoked by the press. I would like to know from you, how can we understand the fact that maybe someone is taken for medical checkup, and then they do blood tests and all that, they don't see what is wrong with him, and just of a sudden another test comes up and he has a terminal cancer. How can we understand that?
First of all, there's no like magic when it comes to science, but I think it's much more about how the information was propagated. You know, he's a state man, and the state of his health wouldn't just be shared to the public at every time tea. So I think there was this secrecy when it comes to handling his health condition. But what struck my attention was the fact that he had to be flown to several countries. You know, he left France. From France, he went to Germany, and this is an African state man with many hospitals in his country, with many clinics in the continent. But why do we still need to expedite African leaders out of their continents to foreign continents to be treated? So it raises a question of the quality of leaders that we have. It's sad to see that he died out of his country. It's really sad to see. So we are all mourning the loss of a great statesman. As per the opposition party now, they say he was a good mediator between the opposition and the ruling party. And we pray that this country can heal gradually. So this is the situation at hand in Cote d'Ivoire, and we also say that the quality of the African leader should be beyond an office, in the sense that you should not just be in a position, you should do things while you are in a position. So we all mourn as African the loss of one of our brothers, but that let's build our country. Let's build our country.
Philemon, time for me to ask you this question, the question that you find on screen. What is wrong with the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister's position? Because why I'm asking that question, 4th of July 2018 to 3rd of October 2019, we had Amadou Gon Coulibaly, who passed away. And then 8th of July 2020 to 10th of March 2021, another Prime Minister, Ahmed Bakayoko, passes away. So it's a call for concern, right?
Well, not necessarily for me. But then reports from media reports should be precise there from Ivory Coast is trying to raise the dust. I mean, we are just copying what they are doing out there. A lot of reports about the Prime Minister's office in Ivory Coast. So we are not starting up this debate. It's a debate that is going on even in Ivory Coast. But personally, like I said, I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, anybody can die at any point in time, whether it's the president or the prime minister. It's very normal. But like from what I read, if you look at his sorry, his rise, his spiral towards being who he is or who he was, Ahmed Bakayoko, he's occupied a couple of government positions, key government positions. I mean, defense minister. That means a degree of trust from the presidency, and then other positions. But then I also want to say that away from his political life, Ahmed Bakayoko was a super popular fellow when it comes to culture, arts and culture on the continent. We have Cameroonian artists who mention Ahmed Bakayoko in their soundtracks, Ivorian artists, Congolese artists. He was a man of the people. He was, I mean, Ahmed Bakayoko at one point in time you would think he's a musician, but he so much loved culture, especially African culture, especially the Ivorian culture. I mean, a lot of Coupé de Calais stars in Ivory Coast see Ahmed Bakayoko as their father, le parrain. Even the late DJ Arafat used to mention Ahmed Bakayoko as his father. So he's a very popular guy. He rose to prominence with his governmental positions, and why not? Some pundits in Ivory Coast, even on the continent, saw Ahmed Bakayoko as a future president in Ivory Coast. There's that possibility because if you look at his transition, he was on a spiral move towards the presidency. So, like I said, we are not igniting this debate. It is out there in Ivory Coast and in other African countries. What has happened to the Prime Minister Ahmed Bakayoko? What is happening to the Prime Ministry out there in Ivory Coast? Is it now probably we'll be having the third Prime Minister in
3 years?
3 years or so. So it's a cause for concern. It's an eye opener. But like I said, personally, anybody can die at any point in time. I just miss the figure of Ahmed Bakayoko. Like I said, if you ask top musicians, top artists on the African continent, they must have at one point in time mentioned his name in one of their popular lyrics. And so from that aspect, I think he's going to be greatly missed by the continent, and especially Ivory Coast. It's a big loss for them.
Thank you, Philemon. Just to indicate our control room that we are talking about the Côte d'Ivoire. We are still talking about the Ivory Coast. We're still talking about the Ivory Coast. Thank you so much. Yagaka, Fokwa, Gabriel. We know that Ivory Coast is a very difficult country to govern. Very difficult country to govern with so many years of civil war, an unstable country. Can we say there is a lot of stress related to the prime ministerial function in that country compared to other countries?
Well, you look at the French colonies first. You need to be able to separate the French colonies and the English, and those who were colonized maybe by Great Britain or so. One thing I've learned about African countries who are suffering from constant crisis, especially those who were colonized by France, is my own analysis is a peaceful French country is just what we call in French a sous-préfecture. That must not be misunderstood. So for Ivory Coast, I begin to see that personally Gbagbo was removed from the situation because he started doing things that are probably not in the interests of France again. That's my analysis. And today we have the present president playing much of his game for me. We look at all his activities. Though some people say he works, that everybody is open to say what he wants to say. But what I'm saying in a nutshell is a country that is easily penetrated by France to that degree is obviously going to face constant crisis with those who want to prove some sense of nationalism. We have not only Ivory Coast, we equally have Democratic Republic of Congo. Why don't you also talk about the constant political instability in that country? So, but when you look at it, you see the difference between it in Ghana and the Nigeria and the South Africa. So I don't want to go again back into superstition, but I'm saying that Ivory Coast is suffering from this because there are two different groups of people in Ivory Coast. There are those who want to see Ivory Coast in an African sense. and there are those who are contented with Ivory Coast in the French tense. And these two parties do not understand themselves. And that is the bone of contention. That's just practically the bone of contention. And some analysts call the present president le sous-préfet. They know what they mean by le sous-préfet. Other analysts call him, I mean, just so many names. You know who's a sous-préfet? A sous-préfet only takes orders from the presidency and something else. So that is what we're fighting for, autonomy. But in a nutshell, we look at it, you see that Ivory Coast keeps having those kind of instability every time it has to do with presidential, because the French need to really insist and see that the person who is there is working for their interests. I think it's going to take us some time to begin to admire those who have tried to save this continent.
Thank you, Yagaka, for Gabriel. I don't know if anyone had any last word to say about this topic. If not, we'll have to move to our next debate issue. You have any reaction to that? Time for us now, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about another very interesting topic this week. As you know, Cardinal Christian Tumi, who is a top figure in the Catholic, Roman Catholic Church in Cameroon, is now known as Cardinal Shufai Christian Tumi, because he picked up a traditional title, which is more like a family head. And as you know, it has created a lot of controversy online, as many people do not seem to understand why a servant of God of his caliber should accept the title of Shufai. And many people too have been praising Cardinal Shufai Christian Tumi, saying that this is actually the best way to preach the gospel, that you cannot worship God without identifying yourself, with your African roots. And in this case, he is from Seoul in the northwest region, English-speaking region of Cameroon. For those who are watching the program, who are not from Cameroon, so that is where he is. So many too are believing that Cardinal Shufai Christian Tumi has set the pace for enculturation by showing people that you can be a cardinal, you can be a servant of God, but it doesn't really mean that you should cut off from your tradition. And that is an issue for us to talk about today. But before we talk about that, I contacted another Shufai who is not a cardinal. He is Shufai Woshunto. Shufai Woshunto is based in Japan. Shufai Woshunto is based in Japan. I try to understand, because to talk about this, we are looking at the cardinal not only from the Cameroon perspective, but from the African perspective. The impact of his act of picking up a traditional title on the church. Shufai Woshunto is joining us from Japan now to talk to us about the meaning of Shufai in Seoul-land. After that, we'll come back to the studio, and we're also waiting for your messages. Let's now watch an excerpt of Shufai Woshunto.
Is the meaning of Shufai in Seoul-land, and why did Cardinal Tumi was being given the title Shufai. First of all, I'm going to start to tell you what a Shufai means. Shufai is in Seoul-land is a head of a family. This family is not only your father, your mother, and your siblings, but it goes to a very wide, big family that you guys are related. And these families, they belong to a compound, a very big compound, that that they have a Shufai. That the Shufai is the leader, the person that takes care of all the children of that compound. In Seoul, the phone has a lot of children. In Seoul-land is being owned by the phone of Seoul. So the only means for this phone to come close to his people, to know what exactly is happening to his people in those communities, is to pass through the Shufai. And this Shufai, he takes care of the women of the compound, takes care of the children.
Thank you. That was a reaction from Shufai Woshunto from Japan. He's a Shufai in Seoul-land, but he's not a cardinal. I'm going to kickstart this topic with you, MONIKA. We've seen a Catholic cardinal that has come up to showcase the fact that he is not only a cardinal, but he's also someone who identifies himself with a culture and which is Salt Land. When you watch images of Cardinal Tumi dressed in traditional Norway's regalia and undergoing maybe the rites to be a Shufai, do you see any problem with that?
Elvis, personally, I see no problem with that, because the principle of inculturation is a new principle which is solving an old problem in the church, in the sense that for Christianity to go around the world, it meets different cultures, and there's this resistance when you are not able to blend your cultural identification and the new Christian values you are trying to acquire. So I think that this is a great step to propagate the gospel in the African continent, because when you begin to inculturate, you really bring in that relationship, that correlation that exists between Christianity or your religion and your culture. So I want to applaud the effort of the Cardinal to actually identify himself as an African first, and of course as a Christian. And this goes a long way to solve the problem of colonialism in religion, in the sense that people used to identify religion as maybe a branch of colonialism. But now, if you approach it much more of inculturation, you see that it spans beyond just a white man thing, but an everybody thing. So that's a good step for me.
Yagaka Gideon, I want you to maybe Philemon MBALLE.
As a journalist, Elvis, I have my own questions, which I must ask. Now, it's a good thing here, but my point is, 20 years down the line, was the Cardinal not fatherly enough to get that title? Now, I can say he's some sort of a retired Cardinal. Now he picks up the traditional title. Could he, 20 years back, pick up that traditional title? Would it have been a bone of contention? Would it have been a case study? Would it have raised dust within the Catholic family? That's the question I ask. It's a good thing, yeah, he picks up a traditional title now at the end of his priestly career or so. 20 years back, would he have been able to take this very decision, knowing fully well that probably it could or it could not affect his priestly career, in quotes? So that's where I have the difficulty, and to me, it's no big news. Like I always say, I'm not much of a religion, Christianity man. I see life normally. If on one side, it's a good thing. It's a good thing, but like I said, he should have taken such a role earlier, way earlier, when he could have been more influential, more active, in his career and in his life. But all the same, like they say, it's never too late. It's a good one there. But my questions still remain. Would Cardinal Tumi have taken up this inculturation exercise 20 years ago or 10, 20 years ago? I leave it there.
Yagaka Gabriel, do you see these as a way maybe to preach the gospel? And do you see any differences between the title of Shufai and maybe the title of Shufai and the position of Cardinal? Do you see any anything that would be a bone of contention between these two titles?
So please let us answer a question first. What is tradition? It seems the problem is a dictionary problem. What is tradition? The Christianity is a tradition. And it's true, before Christianity came, we knew God. So there is something very powerful that has happened with this title of Shufai. In fact, I'm looking up to also going there for my own. Very soon. It's just that I'm too young that they can, I don't know if they can give it to young people Very soon, I also love that this debate should be about me, Shufai. Because the most essential thing is to remember where you're coming from. Let me take an example of the Catholic Church. I'm just saying what is there. The Catholic Church is basically tradition from the beginning to the end. The apostles have been doing this, so we are doing this too. We have, we celebrate these feasts, we celebrate these every year and this and that. We too have the tradition where we come from. But now the problem is in every tradition, there is something that either grows obsolete or isn't appreciated again after some time. It is not to annihilate a tradition, but it is to ensure that it evolves over time. But the bad issue with the coming of Christianity is not bad. But what is bad is that Africans did not interpret it well. They understood it as our own is bad, let's just totally pack it, and let us embrace this one that has come. That is why I have a problem with Jesus' films that I see outside. Jesus is always white, and the devil is black. Why? What do we understand by that? So I thank him for coming, though he asked a very important question. If he took it when he was cardinal full-time in Presence Hill, would there have been any call for concern? Because he's taking it late too. I see Shufai's hands are trembling. It's good, it's not easy to reach that age. So I want to ask people to get back to where they're coming from, study it, at least know where you're coming from. It's quite important. And that's what Shufai is doing. So when you take up a title, they start saying, oh, he has gone this, and that is what I'm against. Fighting the African religion totally. It's true, even the African religion had some kind of barbaric traditions that are no more today. So let us keep to who we are. So it's like me, when I go to my village, they give me Mumbe. I will not take it. Mumbe too means the same thing. The worst is when you start hearing titles. It goes to the issue of names too. I love hearing somebody's name, Mumbe Ndofo. Mekoncho, this. No English name inside. It went a period where when you get somebody's name, there's no English name inside. You see myself, that person is from the forest. We need to embrace back our African tradition. I'm just from telling somebody outside there, it's not Irish potatoes, it's Santa potatoes. It is Banso potatoes. You look at what is happening. You go and plant Irish in Santa and you call it Irish potatoes. There's a problem in this Africa. We need to come back to where we need to come back to the roots and reconnect. We knew God before now. It's just different name. That's why the Nigerians say Chineke or I don't know. They have so many names. But it all means the same thing. In my own, it means see, you have your own. Everybody has his own. You have a child who cannot speak his mother tongue. You have a child who doesn't even understand the meaning of his tradition. You have a child who doesn't know his history. Just like those who do not even know the history of Cameroon now. We need to work back on these things. Honestly, I salute what Shufai Kintam has done. In fact, since he's retired cardinal, we just call him Shufai Kintam now. Cardinal now is for those. For me, I'm calling him Shufai Kintam. It's a very good thing he has done. But let's also encourage those who are still want to see a Reverend Father too. Go and take it Shufai Kintam. Not only in Banso, we want to see them also come back to the village and take those titles. Because they are honorific. They are titles which depict some sense of integrity within the community and play a very vital role for the proper functioning of the community in general.
And there could be a problem which has been raised by those, of course, some Roman Catholics agree with the fact that he should pick up the title, the Shufai. Others disagree, but mostly Pentecostals too are not okay with the fact that with the title of Shufai. Because I want to ask the question to Carl, because they say that the title of some rights that might be involved for you to grab such titles might not really be aligned with Christianity. So you could find yourself in between, fighting in between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Who is the devil? Who is the devil?
That's a very good question. But Elvis, I believe that before Christianity came to Africa, we were communicating with God. You know, even from the Holy Book, the Bible, you hear of the Ethiopian Enoch who was reading the Hebrew material. That means that Africa has had this connection with God before Christianity comes. And Christianity just comes down to make the connection more specific in a particular direction through Jesus Christ. So for me, I think that it doesn't silence or annihilate our African cultures and beliefs. So this is an applaudable act because, like I said, enculturation has been existing since. It's not a new thing. It started in Nigeria. I mean, these are things that should be applauded when we see it in our country. And this also permits the community to be very receptive to religion, knowing that religion does not come to remove or take away their beliefs and their norms, but to connect it to Christianity. So I think it's a good act.
PHILEMON, I know you don't really like religion-related topics, but just based on the fact that he's been able to get close to his people, now we are also finding an institution whereby the cardinal will wish him a very long life. He was going to stay for some time. But imagine you are a man of God, and then you find yourself you're either Shufai and you are also a cardinal, and imagine that you are no longer in the world, and there's surely going to be a battle between the Shufais and the church.
For instance,
now we will really be in charge of your funeral, right? You are no longer there. Will it be the Shufai or the Shufai clans or the church?
It brings us back to my worries, to my question. If at the end of his life, what do we do? Do we, for instance, I know, for instance, in the diocese of Boya, most priests who pass on are buried at the cathedral at Small Soko. Now let's come to imagine that was the case with Shufai. We're not praying for that now, but
you wish him a long life. He has a long life.
The point is, do we carry out traditional rites, probably killing of goats, sprinkling of blood?
I really want the control room to show some of the images, because I think we have a series of images there.
I think
because where there are some images where you
saw some.
There was beer. There was beer somewhere.
So that's where I stand on the fence to say that, for instance, where does it go? The traditional rites will be performed with the sprinkling of blood, with the killing of goats and chicken and all of that, and then later on a priestly burial will be done. So it's, for me, it still beats my imagination. It still leaves gray spots throughout this conversation, Elvis. I think for those who see it as a good thing, fine. But for me, I always still have my questions. Would he have done this 20 years back, knowing fully well that probably, and it's not over yet. It's a developing story, because from what I read, we should be waiting to hear from probably from Rome on the situation, because it's really gaining ground on social media. A lot of people are talking about it. A former Catholic cardinal who goes through some traditional rites and gains the title of a chauffeur. So for me, it's still a developing story, and like I said, I'm sitting on the fence.
Okay. I think that the problem we're having here is because there's no legendary, a seasoned bandsman man with us here. Or sort of man, that's what they call it now, sort of boys or something. Yes, there's nobody here to really explain to us. I think for a man like that who knows those things well, he knows the doctrine of the church so well. Because when you say cardinal, you need to understand what it means. A cardinal has an office in Rome, and those are people who spend time looking at the dogma of the church and all of these things. And somebody like that, who is equally knowledgeable enough in terms of his tradition, does what I think he knows what he's doing. We may not understand, but I think he knows what he's doing. We are looking maybe at Shufai as those kind of titles. We have some titles in the village that has a traditional implication, direct traditional implication. But there are other titles, even in my own village, which are just honorific.
Exactly.
And that's how I'm looking at Shufai.
I'm not cutting you short, Yagaka. Someone made a comment to say Shufai clan heads, clan heads, and there are clan heads, and they are priests of traditional religion. In his case, he has no clan and is not a traditional priest. and he therefore bears the title honorary. It's like an honorary title which he is bearing.
Okay.
Based on the message that I
And
read
it
from
solves the
someone.
problem. It solves the enigma. So it's just honorific. Just like even our neighbor Nigeria, they do. Yes, somebody says, Omo, Koma, one, or what. I don't know what it means, but or sometimes it's just honorific. It's just honorific. I think he has done quite a lot of things recently that it's all thought that they should reward him practically.
And then the big question again goes, where would he be based? I mean, I believe his recent title would mean that being the head of a clan or family, he should be based back at home.
Of course, the Shufai that we spoke to in Japan, Shufai Woshunto, told me that he's based in Japan, but he has appointed someone to represent him in the land.
Is that tradition?
Who carries out...
is that, I mean, if you...
if you're a Shufai, you have an opportunity.
I'm a Shufai, and I say, okay, Shufai, your Shufai is going for greener pastures. Yagaka, you represent, you be the Shufai. I still don't understand how it works.
No, modern times have come. Everything is evolving. It's just like Momo and
that's how
paper money.
And that's how a lot of traditional rulers they get the title. I'm a traditional ruler of Muya also. I live in Douala. There's supposed to be that nexus. There's supposed to be that I mean that,
it's not
that feeling
with
the people you lead.
Yes.
How can I be a traditional ruler of Muya and I live in Germany?
No, you are taking traditional ruler, like full-fledged traditional ruler, and confusing it with honorific title.
Exactly. And just to say that inculturation is not just about the Africa and Christianity. Even at the Western world, the British monarchy had to keep its culture yet accepting Christianity. So we should not make it a big deal when it comes to Africa. It's something that the church has been propagating in most continents.
To make where your argument will come in is this recent crisis where we saw chiefs from Southwest who fled and they went to Yaoundé or so, and they wanted to be chief from where they are. So they are only chiefs in good times. It's true it's not easy, but they're only chiefs in good times. That we understand. Those are traditional rulers. But I will not go and they give me Shufai and you will stop me from going for my activities. A Shufai can delegate the honors to another person.
And I'm having a message. Guys, messages are coming in. As Shufai, when you're no longer there, what about the juju that will come as cardinal? That is too much, Matthias from Limbe. Maybe he's suggesting that when a Shufai is no longer there in the world, a juju will come to the funeral. That's something I don't know. But I think we are going to be digging deep into this issue. Because next week...
Maybe when the Shufai dies, the juju is supposed to be there, and then...
Next week we are going to conduct a series of we're going to do some interviews to understand this issue of Shufai. It's just that I invited some people to come and talk about it, but they were not available. You know, the displacement and all of that, they were not really available. But we're going to have one-on-one with maybe even the people in the church to really find out because they have their own defense on that. Meanwhile, those who are strict Christians, they also too do not seem to agree with this issue of Shufai. But there's something that remains. Something needs to be done to be able to ensure that those who are being won over into Christianity will feel comfortable. Because I take it, for example, imagine that you preach to a juju dancer who enjoys juju dancing as a hobby, and then you take him to Christianity, and then maybe you would want him to join the choir, and he gets into the choir, and you want him to sing Gregorian chants. You're going to find out that
it's another form of juju he's trying to do, and that is the problem.
Maybe in 1 month he might feel very
no, but
uncomfortable.
the truth is sometimes this thing to mix them is not easy. I think that we just choose a direction and stay there. It's better like that, because to really mix it is not easy. Honestly, we're asking ourselves a question: when you've never maybe witnessed a burial ceremony where you're a big man in the church and you're also a big man in the village.
It becomes very
then
difficult.
You see the kind of clash that is going on there.
And
it's something very difficult to handle.
And someone sent me a message saying if we are talking about inculturation, then we should be looking forward to a period where maybe they will start using fufu corn as communion.
No.
Because
please, communion is not to eat and be.
That is.
We don't want people will be coming for Holy Mass now just because you know what it means. Fufu corn as Holy Communion.
Of course, so that people can identify themselves.
No, why identify themselves through fufu corn? That is the problem. Because Holy Communion, according to the Christianity, is some sort of spiritual sharing. We are not there to be full. That
But they can take one big loaf.
So
one big bread. So yeah, see
Take one big
people
loaf and
bread.
share.
So it can be
Then
everything.
just put bread inside and continue.
I agree with that viewer, because the communion is not just physical. It's not just about bread. It's about the spiritual aspect of it. So taking fufukon, no problem. That will be part of the enculturation.
So
No,
the
you can take
fine.
fufukon and you start sleeping. That is the problem. No, we don't want to
it's
be.
But you're not taking big loaves. you're just
Big
taking
loaves
tiny,
is just a
I mean,
tiny.
that is it.
We should not start what you
Of
cannot
course.
finish. That's it.
No, but
Anyway,
for
I
me,
want
Mr.
to-
Elvis, I think that religion did not come to silence culture. It didn't come to remove culture away. It just come to identify us maybe with God in a particular direction. So the fact that we integrate culture and religion is not a bad thing. For me, I advocate it. And it will help spread Christianity, brother. Because there are people that will want to maintain their culture at all costs. But if we label them that because you're doing this, you're not a Christian, then we're going to miss out.
So we take our conclusion. Yagaka, just 30 seconds to conclude so that we clock exactly 90 minutes. You have 30 seconds.
Yes, please, parents, start speaking the dialect to your children. We want them to be able to talk, to be very eloquent in your mother's tongue. Let the praise of speaking your mother tongue it should be more than the praise of knowing good grammar. Because we're going to pass away and say, yeah, this guy knows vocabulary. We want to say that this guy can speak well the dialect. And we're going to that stage. Please, that's the first thing. Second thing, let the youth reconnect to their tradition and try to understand where they are coming from. Talk with your parents and get the history. It's quite very important. And the last thing is also to encourage youths to get involved in their politics, not necessarily actively, but at least passively. You should be aware about the happenings, because whether you like it or not, like somebody said, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. It's important that you understand that the future depends on you and that your career should not be jeopardized by somebody else. Don't shoot the stone in the wrong direction.
Thank you, Yagaka. Philemon MBALLE, not necessarily on the Shufai, just your general conclusion remarks,
I always say that change is always difficult in the beginning, messy in the middle, but always it has proven that change is gorgeous in the end. So we are on a self-transformation move as Africans. We are trying to do things for ourselves by ourselves. We are trying to revolutionize Africa. It's never going to be easy. Difficult in the beginning, messy in the middle, but in the end, Africa will rejoice. That's all I can say for now.
Thank you, Philemon MBALLE. Monika, your last word. You have 45 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Elvis. First of all, it was a great pleasure to be here. I want to say that there's a great awakening in the continent. We are seeing young people demarcating themselves from the east to the west and becoming very, very politically proactive. And it's an example that we should copy from wherever we're listening, and we have to realize that posterity depends on us today. So let's young people, let's engage ourselves into politics, let's engage ourselves into youth leadership, and of course bring the change we want to see in Africa.
And the pastor has just sent me a message. He says, read Colossians 2 verse 8, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Read Colossians 2:8, and step coming from Pastor NGWA. We are not going to launch that debate again yet.
Yeah, but tell Pastor that we have heard.
Some other time we'll invite Pastor too.
Yes.
They have always been here to come and react. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of MONIKA, Yagaka, Gabriel, Philemon MBALLE, on behalf of our technical crew, DESMOND, NGWA, Eli Wane, and all the technical crew of my media prime, on behalf of the administration, we want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to watch the program 90 Minutes in Africa. We want to also say and apologize that we had some issues, especially having our guest No Franklin from China and Daniel MWOMBONU from Kenya. We're going to try to rectify that in upcoming editions. Thank you for watching, and see you next week, Saturday, for another edition of 90 Minutes in Africa. Bye-bye.